stories, but eventually you should be able to do one of our annual competitions, which is the public speaking competition that is offered throughout the entire country, and it's actually offered to 60 different countries in the world. So when you do this presentation, the theme for the year is given out like in December, January, because the competition for us has to happen in March. School is just starting and everybody's like, well, we can't because school just started and we've got new teachers, we've got new students, we can't send anybody. Well, the idea is if you do it now in September, October, November, we find out who in your school or who in your class is a good speaker and comfortable with writing a 5-minute speech, and you get your short list of who to work with. Then, when the new theme for that year comes out, then those 4 or 5 people, we say, okay, this is the theme this year. You've got a couple of weeks, get your speech together, and we'll see which one of you 5 we'll send off to represent us this year. So the idea is we want to try and get schools to do that so they have their short list. And then in March, they say, oh yeah, we can pick somebody and send them off. Because the winners come from all over different schools. Last year, our winner came from Hong Kong on the coast. A couple of years before that, it was a student from La Serena, up in the north. Oftentimes it's close by in Santiago, but it doesn't have to be. So the idea is we want to help teachers get the idea on how to get themselves organized, to do the competition now, so they have their short list, and then when they get whatever the theme is for that year, their students can participate. They can send somebody off from your school, because only one person per school is sent off. Then we have the competition in March to decide who is going to represent Chile, and whoever represents Chile gets sent to London for 1 week, all expenses paid, to represent Chile in the competition with all the other countries. That's been happening every year for quite some time. So we want to get that organized down here and give you a chance to see how easy it really is, right? So, as I said, the competition typically always happens in March. By the end of March, we have to send off to London who is going to be representing that particular school. This is organized by London because London, ESU London, is the first English-speaking union group. And from there, they started other countries that English isn't their first language, but they know English is the language of communication. Treaties, interaction between countries, research, it's all done in English. So people need to learn English, even if English isn't the language of the household, no matter what their job is. That seems to be what they have to do to advance. So that's a northern hemisphere instead of a southern hemisphere. So in March, we have to have our competition here in Chile so that we can send off who was our winner in April. And then usually the first week in May is when the competition is in London. So that means we have to find out now and give opportunities now for people to practice writing a speech and giving it out loud and kind of get a short list of people. That's the idea. So, in the past, we've had a theme that comes from London. And the competitions in the schools, You can use any of the past themes or use something that's going on in your school. Oftentimes, there's a school-wide theme about environmental studies on Earth Day or Arbor Day, or maybe there's something specific going on with current issues that are happening in the area. Many times, schools have a debate club or a Model United Nations group that meet once a week, once a month, and you can practice these as ideas, themes, whatever you might have. In the past, we've had things like, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking so makes it so. So sometimes they'll do something like that as like a quote from Shakespeare, and then whatever you want to expand and do. Like, what do you think is good? What do you think is bad? And that becomes the basis of your story. A great leader can change the world in an instant. So you can pick any leader that you think, somebody that's famous, or maybe the leader of your household. You know, your grandmother is very influential in the entire group, or, you know, you decide how you want to interpret that theme. It can go in many, many directions. Usually these are good starting points for school-wide competitions or class-wide competitions because they're very open-ended. They can go in a lot of different directions. No one speech will be the same. Past years from 2023, 2022, different themes, but if you look at them, you see they're all very open-ended and can go a lot of different ways. Today, for our experiment, we're going to start with one that we used back in 2022. We expect too much from our heroes. Do we expect too much from our heroes? Now, everybody needs at least a paper here. If you're my assistant, you can pass that out. Make sure everybody has a couple pieces of paper.
Yes, yes. Maybe now I think we have to project because there are no handouts.
Okay, okay, not a problem.
Pass it down, please. Pass it down. Leticia.
Yeah, but no, that's okay. I'll just have the students go from my overhead.
And we go next to you. Now, yes, everybody's going? Great.
One, do we have more paper?
Yes. Do you need more paper?
I think everybody needs a couple of pieces of paper because eventually we're gonna move on.
A couple, okay.
Okay.
I don't know if I have as many as a couple.
Okay, so
Hold on.
at our website,
Wait, she brought something.
okay, at our website, if you go to search ESU, you'll come to the home page, and from there you can do anything on. These are for the students. Perfect. Give it to my
Okay.
assistant here.
There you are.
Thank you.
Put everybody else to work, right?
That's what it's supposed to be.
Okay, so if you go to the website, these handouts, oh, be careful.
Yeah.
These handouts are things that are on our webpage, and they're all things that you can view online. You can download it if you want a copy or print it out for yourself. Again, the specific guidelines, if you want to register for the competition, the form is there. And this isn't something that any student that wants to can register. This is a countrywide competition, which means you've got to find a teacher at your school that will sponsor you. And there can be one candidate from your school that's sent off. Of course, the next year you can try again. right? But the whole idea is you can get all the details, all of the very specifics on the handbook, all of the ideas for startup lesson plans, introductory things, workshops that are held. If you want to do a full unit, we have what's called the badges, where level 1 has like 5 or 6 different things, and that's like introducing the idea. Level 2 badge is doing the research and getting it together, and by level 3, it's actually presenting to your classmates. So by the time you do all of those lessons, you're ready to make a video and send it off to the judges. So, on the website, like I said, there's lots of details. When you're actually doing your video, we always focus on from the waist to the head, because the presentation has to do with your voice and what you have to say. So the focus is on that, not a dramatic move like if you're watching something in the theater. The whole idea is use the whole stage and move around. In this case, it's public speaking, and we want to hear your voice and what you have to say, okay? All the details are available online, including, for those that are interested, what the judges use for their judging. So if you want to see the full details on what the judges are using, you're curious, you can look at that. Teachers oftentimes will do this after you've gotten past the introductory things and you're ready to look at more details with your classmates. Again, when you're doing something in the classroom, you can pick like several main ideas and judge how well they did. You don't have to have such an intimidating form to give everybody. You can do this, and you can do one for each speaker. You can take a shortened version and have speakers 1 through 10 and make a little chart. You can find ways to involve everyone to listen to the classmates as they're presenting. So, as I said, each year we have a school countrywide presentation, and in 2023 it was at Adolfo Banez University. Last year it was at the University of Los Andes, and it hasn't been decided yet where it will be this year. The idea is that the final competitions are typically in the Santiago area, and any regions like South or the North, anybody that wants to have a competition here can do a regional competition, and then their top candidates will be added to the candidates that we invite for the semifinals and finals. So if you go to the webpage and you click on the thing that says Event Voices, you'll see past years, and you can hear a full speech. When you click on that, you can hear their speech, see a video of some of the people that have won in the past years. If you go to For Schools, you click on that and you'll get the details for each event in all the handouts. So you click, for example, on the public speaking and say, yes, give me more information about that. And then you can go to the lesson plans and print out like the first handout that you just have on the brainstorming is one of them that's listed in here. So if you want to do that to organize yourself on a speech, like I said, you're going to do a speech on a certain theme, and then later, if you're actually the candidate that's selected, you're going to have to come up with a new theme and do the same exact steps yourself independently to get your new speech ready to go, whatever the theme happens to be. So you go to like getting started or the brainstorm or how to outline your speech or ideas for the checklist. All of these things are available online and you can print them out to take yourself through the same steps that we're doing right now today. So first we're going to start with brainstorming the idea, okay? And on the brainstorm, I want you to, at the bottom part here, the very first page where it says brainstorm, as a group, we're going to talk about the theme that I said, do we expect too much of our heroes? So I want you to write that across here. Do we expect too much of our heroes? That's the theme that we're going to work on for today. Do we expect too much of our heroes? And then I'm going to ask you, what would you say in a speech about heroes? What kind of heroes? Who's your hero?
My dad.
Your dad? Okay, everybody, as the ideas down, put dad or put family, a family member, somebody in your family that you really see as a hero. What else could you do? You got 5 minutes, you gotta have more than that to say. Who are your heroes? Who are your heroes? You have none? Who are your heroes? Give me something. Your mom? Another one for family, okay? Who are your heroes? Anyone in the news? Anyone that you respect?
My friends?
Maybe your friends? Yes? Anyone ever watch superhero cartoons? Are they heroes? Okay. Maybe we expect too much of them. I mean, they're always saying Superman should have caught Lois when she was falling. No, he's too busy doing something else. Okay, superheroes, definitely. They're a big, big thing nowadays. Write down superheroes. You could sublist on the difference between Superman and Aquaman and Superwoman or any of the ideas that you have, okay?
Somebody must have a teacher as a hero, I'm sure.
Oh, we better put that down. There must be somebody that helped you learn something, even if it wasn't to learn to read and write or math. Maybe a music teacher that helped you with learning music, or a coach for a sport. Yes.
Public figure like a singer or an actor, actress.
Famous people, an actress, a singer. Many times it's like, I want to be like them. You want to aspire to be like them. Yeah. Entertainers, comedians, movie stars, TV stars.
Maybe it could be doctors.
The medical field, doctors, nurses.
They save lives.
Yes, yes. Maybe one you know personally, or doctors in general. Yeah, exactly. People that are doing research, finding out information about maybe a loved one you know has cancer or some other kind of disease that they're actually making breaking news right now. Okay, everybody still making their list here? We've listed 5, 6 different things here. I don't see everybody writing them down. What about scientists? They've got people now that they can actually look through the telescope and they send off the satellite and see pictures of Jupiter that come all the way back. I mean, some people are really impressed with what the scientists have come up with. Some are very, very impressed with people in the past, scientists in the past. Copernicus or, any Einstein, any of those authors. Now, I don't see everybody writing all this stuff down. I see them only selectively writing things down. Scientists, medical doctors, How about rescue people, like the person that comes to the rescue in the ambulance? Firemen, firewomen. I mean, right now with all the areas that are really dry, all of the big, huge forest fires that are happening right now, firefighters definitely are heroes. What about people that are trying to save the environment? Politicians. They're trying to pass laws, like the dolphins, the whales that are swimming out there are over hunted. They need to have somebody speak for them. They can't speak for themselves.
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah. There's a lot of different kinds of heroes. Famous, not so famous. Very common, not so common. There's a lot of different kinds of heroes. And the first thing you have to do is think about how many different kinds of heroes there are. And then the next thing, you have a handout. Your topic here, you're going to say heroes. Easy to write in the middle there. I want you to pick 3 or 4 of the best ideas of what we just wrote down in your brainstorm. Everyone's going to have something different. 3 or 4. So you have the inner circle, and then you pick, maybe you want to do something with superheroes. Maybe you want to do something with medical doctors. Maybe you want to do something with a family member. You pick 3 or 4 things that you would expand on with the idea of a hero. Your favorite ideas to pursue, okay? You do that right now. Pick your 4. Now, from that main idea, I want you to think about what could you say? Like if you're going to talk about your Uncle Steve, what are the 3 main things that you think are so important to explain why your Uncle Steve is a hero? Just the main things. Why? So these are your subcategories. Something that you know about. Each one of these topics. If you want to talk about medical doctors, or lawyers, or politicians, what is something about what they do that you think should be included in your speech? That you would say, what makes them a hero? What makes it kind of difficult for them because the expectations are set high. Once you're in that category, they can't get out of it. Maybe your Uncle Steve doesn't like being your hero. You think he's a hero, but maybe he doesn't like being that role. He wants to step back. Have you take your own role. So you should have 2 or 3 things that you have about each of your main ideas. Okay? I see a lot of empty circles here. You only want to do 3. You didn't want to go with the 4th. Develop 3 well, but that's fine. Now, within these little circles, I want you to think about if you know a personal story that you could give as an example. And it doesn't have to be for every category. Because you don't want your whole speech to be a bunch of stories. But one of these bubbles should be something that personalizes it. Like, I really think doctors because my grandmother has Alzheimer's and my mom's worried about getting Alzheimer's, and quite frankly, I am too, because if it's gonna run in the family, that's a story that you can tell about why you think the research doctors are a hero to you. So look at your main ideas and which one of these you think you have a good story, personal story, because you want your audience to feel your emotion, why it's so important to you. So pick one of them to be something that lends itself to be a really good story. And you don't have to write the whole story, but just briefly that you would somehow include that within your speech. Then the next thing I want you to do is each one of your topics in your whole speech, you should have one interesting fact, a statistic, something that's just not your opinion, but it justifies your idea why they're a hero. One in every 50 people has Alzheimer's would be a statistic that you got from the American Association of Medicine. You know, some little fact that you want to say and incorporate into your speech somehow. Because ultimately, when you've got 5 minutes to talk, you'll have your introduction. Each one of those subcategories will become something that you say for 1 minute or so. And then you'll conclude and wrap up what your idea was. So that means for each one of these, you should have one interesting fact or statistic that you throw in while you're talking. Okay? And this would be a good time to take out your smartphones and look it up and find something interesting. Do a search on medical research done in the last 5 years, or firemen to the rescue, or use your keywords and find a short little quote or fact. And you have enough room in the margins that you can, there, instead of just a small little word, you want to do a direct quote. You want to make sure that you're quoting exactly correct. Exact number, you got it from the New York Times, you got it from the Mercurial, whatever specific, and the facts that you're going to include. The statistic, the name of the person, the details. Somehow, each one of these not every single bubble, but each main idea should have at least one fact that you can say about your subcategory. So you should be finding 3 little interesting facts to add why you think that person is a hero, or why they're not a hero, why they're expected too much, to keep with your theme. Okay? So we'll take some time to search that out. Teachers, are you following along with us and doing the activity? So you can find an example to give to your students when you try it with them.
And today, how's it going? You getting your facts?
Yeah.
Getting your facts straight?
Sorry,
Yes.
we have internet connection, so we can search on our phones.
Because you don't know the password. Marcelo, some of them need the password to get internet. Is there a suggestion of university and a password you can give them?
Okay, ¿hay alguna para conexión?
These two, these guys
Okay.
need.
Okay, I'm asking.
Also.
Okay, okay.
¿Cómo hay
¿Tu lugar? Okay. Tu lugar 2024. Ujú. Tu lugar with a capital letter at the beginning. Tu lugar 2024. That's for alumnos.
No. Para
Eh,
Vive la Watch.
Okay. Bibliwatch?
Vive la Watch.
Vive la Watch. So that's the Wi-Fi. Did you get that? Yes.
Which one?
Vive la Watch. That's
Viven?
Vive la Watch.
Viven?
That's the Wi-Fi network, right?
VIVA.
Yeah,
Viven
LA Vive la Watch.
La Watch. Okay,
Should
find
be-
that in your settings. And once, is there anybody that hasn't found which one to plug to? Because then after, he's gonna tell us what the password is. So at least find the one to log in.
Okay.
Porque estamos publicando.
Ah,
Vamos a poder entregarlo después. En el logo.
It won't let you?
You're right.
No,
Así
Take it
pues.
over to our tech guy right now. Walk over there.
it's not.
Show him what your choices are. Right there.
Yes, Mr. Techie, Mr. Techie's here.
Okay. You go down there and then you can show everybody
See
else.
what he can
Do
do.
I find it?
¿Cómo se llama la red?
Vive la Watch. Aquí está.
Ah, ya, yo pensé que era la clave.
Era Vive la Watch es la red. And the password is tu lugar 2024.
Todo en minúscula.
The first one is
Now that you know. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else missing it?
No, I got it.
You got it?
You got it?
You boys got it?
You got it? Everyone's got it? You found it? You're okay? You had your own. You okay?
You okay?
Now, if you're really working on this speech, of course, you would fine tune it and probably find better examples. But just something that jumps out at you that sounds interesting, you can use for now, write it down, And if you actually were gonna develop this speech, you would go back and probably make some additions. But within the next 5 minutes, you should have 3 interesting facts that have something to do with heroes and how we expect too much of our heroes.
Not from the start.
Everybody found at least one good statistic, maybe 2 or 3, but at least one for one of your categories. Given the chance, you would, of course, have time to tweak it and add more things, but for the purposes of today, we're gonna look at how do we take the information from your brainstorming and put it into an outline form. So of the areas that you want to talk about, what do you think would be the best thing, your strongest, most interesting idea to do first, for your first main idea? Which one of these areas do you think would be a really good thing to start with? What would you do second? What would you do third? In a 5-minute speech, you usually have time to do 2 or 3 things well. Sometimes you might, in your conclusion or something, say something new, a 4th thing that you don't say that much about. But really, when you're doing a 5-minute speech, to develop it well, you introduce what you're going to talk about, and then you have 30 seconds to a minute to talk about your first idea, transition into your next idea, and transition into your third idea. Before you wrap it up and your conclusion, you have, again, 30 seconds to a minute. Both your introduction and your conclusion will be somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute. And then each one of your points is going to be 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, depending on which one you elaborate more on. So at this point, when you turn to your next page on the speech, you need to decide which one of these categories is going to be what you say first, going to be what you say second, and what's going to be third. Not the exact order, but at least the ideas. You should have your main ideas that you fill in the blank. From your brainstorm, you also have ones that you think are particularly good, that are entertaining the story. Just because it's point number E doesn't mean that's going to be the last thing you say about it. But if you want to do an anecdotal, personalized story, you might want that in the first one because you grab your audience's attention. Maybe you want to save it for the end because it's a good, strong way to end. Or maybe you want to sandwich it in the middle. You have to decide where you think that would be good. Each one should have at least some kind of information to inform, like a statistic that you give, or persuade them to agree with you. Give them a reason to agree with you. Give an example. Sometimes it's not a specific statistic, but it's a generalization. So you should be able to get some kind of idea of what you would say in each one of these main ideas to kind of get your flow organized. When you start a speech, you always want to have something that is strong, that gets their attention. So sometimes, maybe one of the statistics that you found, you actually want to put up in the introduction because it really captures your attention. Did you know that 5 out of every 10 people, blah, 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 that gets your attention? Then later when you talk about it, you could find another statistic to throw out. And you'll have a chance to research it. But right now what I want you to think about is just the flow, not the exact wording, but just the flow. What order would you put the things from the brainstorm?
Sorry. How many statistics that you write?
Really, you don't want so many statistics in your speech. I would say one good, strong per section. So if you threw something into your introduction or conclusion, it should be different than what you're gonna present in the other three. So 3 good, strong statistics.
Okay.
And sprinkle anything else
Okay.
accordingly.
But could be only one.
You know, oftentimes, a good statistic that really helps flow your ideas is better than rattling off a bunch of things, because people don't get passionate about that.
Yeah.
And when you're giving a speech like this, you want to persuade them.
Yeah.
You want to persuade them. Because that was the next thing that I was gonna state, your statement of intent. You have to include in your introduction somehow. What do you want your audience to walk away with? What do you want them to have learned, or what do you want them to agree with you on? That's very important to help you build what you have to say to get there.
To make them think about something.
Yes, because the judges will look at what was their intent and did they do it? Did they support it? Did they give evidence? Did they convince me?
Can we have a rubric or something to follow like a class?
Yeah, all online, all of that is very specific of what the judges look at.
Okay. Perfect.
Very, very specific. Yeah. But for the purposes of today, like I told you, we're gonna work on just the introduction, which means we have to do something with your main points so you know what to include in your introduction. If you don't have an idea of your outline, you can't do a strong introduction. If you don't have a strong introduction, you can't get to your conclusion because you haven't come up with what do you want your audience to walk away with. So it's important to know kind of where you're going to go with it. But in terms of getting started, you just kind of know you're going to develop those paragraphs later. And what you have to do is have a very strong introduction. If you haven't convinced your audience in the introduction, you've lost your audience. And that's going to be the difference between a good speech, a very good speech, and an excellent speech. If you have captured them in the first 30 seconds of what you have to say, they'll listen to the rest of what you have to say. If you haven't accomplished that in your introduction, they'll probably just politely sit there and listen. But you won't have persuaded and convinced them. So when you're doing the introduction, you have to really think about what do you want them to think or feel? What do you want to entertain or persuade or convince them? And why this is so important. Why is this important? If it's important to you, why is it important to me? And you've got to convince them somehow. You can later do that when you're developing your speech. But in your introduction, you really have to have in mind where you're going to go with it. Because your first sentence has to be something that's going to grab your audience's attention. Then you've got to get what is your message? What do you want to accomplish? That's gotta be your second sentence. You've gotta come up with something to say about each one of your main points. Why that is a subcategory of what you want them to get out of it. Those things do not have to be elaborate and very long-winded sentences, but you have to have a very good idea of where you're going to go with that. Or your transition sentence when you're ready to go into point number 1. They're like, yeah, well, I never really liked superheroes. So they'll be polite and they'll listen, but you're not really engaging the audience in what you have to say. You might be interested in it, but when you're doing public speaking, you have to convince others. You have to win them over. So what you say in the introduction is really important. Sometimes, after you've done your introduction, you work on the other parts of your speech and you go back and you change your introduction because you've changed your mind and the focus of where it's going. But when you're starting out, you have to at least start with a very strong, get your audience's attention, why this particular topic is important, what you want them to walk away with by the time you're done talking, what are the main things that you're going to elaborate more on, and work into your first paragraph. That's what we want you to work on today. That is where we're at right now. Now, instead of having just those bullet points, you think about how you would phrase that. And like I said, the introduction shouldn't take anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute to say it. So they don't have to be long, elaborate. You're not going to go into a big, long story. You'll save that for later when you're going to convince them during their speech. But right now, you just need 5 really good, succinct sentences and introduce the idea. And so, underneath on where you're outlining your speech, you can start writing the actual sentences either up here or down here, or use the backside, however you want to do to get your opening paragraph. Those 5 sentences that you're going to put together. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
We're going to present this now.
We will be presenting it not right now, but today. But today, before you leave. So right now, you work on those 5 sentences, and eventually, then we will, within the next hour, work on your presentation of the introduction. Okay? So right now, get a start on your opening sentences for your introduction, which by the time you say it to yourself, it'll take you probably about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Shouldn't take much more than that, because you want to have time to present your ideas further in your speech. A question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are you from the States, right?
Yes.
Because my hero is around, not really sure the years. I mean, I know that it was 1880 or.
Yes. He's in Yeah, he was in political power in the mid to late 1800s. He was the 16th president. And it was during the American Civil War.
Thank you.
You know your history, all right? You won't caught out.
Yeah.
What does statement of intent mean?
Statement of intent means the message that you want to give. What do you want the person to feel or believe after? His statement might have been, Abraham Lincoln was the best president the United States has had. By the end of his speech, I should be convinced of that. Or, well, he didn't even talk about my favorite, blah, 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 blah. Or, like, yeah, I didn't know that much about the guy, but it's really impressive. So your intent is the message. What do you want to say about heroes? What do you want your audience to understand or believe?
Kind of like change the order of like things we have to say in the introduction.
You can change the order, but specifically the judges will look at your first, second, and third idea, and did you flow in your speech with that? Because otherwise, if you said something about, I don't know, presidents of the United States, and the first one, the good ones, the bad ones, and why I should run, then you have to have like a flow so that later in your speech, you're going to go back and visit in order that you said it in your introduction. The judges will expect you to follow the order that you said in your introduction. You might not say the intent or the attention getter right away and say like your order first and then put those down at the bottom. But the three main things you gotta have in order. And by the time you're done with your introduction, the judge and your audience in general should know, why is this so important? Why should I pay attention? Okay? So you could say that at the beginning or the end of your intro, but yeah. Now the students are my prisoners, and they will have to remain. Anyone that has been invited to the workshop can take a break, get a coffee, use the restroom, so that when you come back, we can see what they're coming up with. But the students are my prisoners. We'll take like a 10-15 minute break and then corral them back in here. Now, students, they come back in 10 minutes. You're going to be ready to show me your 5 introductory sentences for your introduction. Okay? Yeah. We got 10 minutes to kind of get your ideas together. Okay? So stay on task. Stay on task. Just the introduction. Nothing else. Nothing else. You decide what you think is the best thing to put in your introduction. Now remember, get my attention, convince me, And the three main things you're gonna talk about. Why that fits your topic, okay? Anyone that needs help with that, help with the sentence, you let me know. You got yours done already? Okay. Okay. Anybody need help? I'm happy to help you out with anything that you might need. Okay, then start on these and get your sentences and go back to it. To how can I grab my person's attention? Okay? What's your subtopic? What's your issue? So, have you figured out what order you want to put them in? Okay. Yeah, cartoon heroes, because something everybody knows. It's a good place to start. And then either the family or the teacher, which do you think would go for your flow better? Now, you need to come up with a sentence, a good, clean sentence on why that's important. Why are they heroes? Why are they not heroes? Why are they expected too much? Maybe you think we don't expect enough of them. Okay? Yep, you're gonna be in the hot spot. You're gonna be in the hot spot. So, I think we'll put you in front of the. I think we'll put you in front of the. We gotta just be careful of our chords here. Yeah. Yeah? Okay. You guys have your 5 sentences?
No, I have mine.
You have panic? Well, no. Go ahead.
What do you mean with sentences like for what?
Okay. So she, for example, said she's gonna start out with cartoon characters that are heroes. Okay? That's not a complete sentence. So somehow she's gonna have to come up with a sentence that says, if I could be anyone in the world, I would want to be Superwoman because she helps so many. I come up with a sentence that I'm going to convince you why I think that's a hero. Compared to my mother, who I think is a hero, but nobody knows all the things that she's done. And then, of course, there are people like her medical doctor that she works for that she thinks is a hero. Okay, that introduced the idea. Later, I'm going to give more examples of that. But I said my flow of ideas using complete sentences. So you put it together in an opening paragraph. Okay? At this point, we're not introducing ourselves. Later, we would worry about that. Now it's introducing just the topic.
Should I write a script?
No, now it's time to do complete sentences. In your introduction and in your conclusion, you write a complete narrative sentence, like a paragraph. On your main points, you keep bullet points so that you can look up as part of it. But in your introduction, in your conclusion, you write out exactly how you would say it, so you can time it. Okay?
I have to create 5 sentences for my Did you look for the first main point or for the second main point?
First main point, second main point, third main point.
5 sentences. Or in general?
Those are 3 sentences. The other 2 sentences are gonna be something that you use to get your audience's attention
Oh,
and somehow telling me why this is so important. Okay? Okay?
You want to?
I still have some water.
Yes, I don't know.
I have another one I didn't even open yet.
Ah, okay. It's pure stream water,
Oh,
not contaminated by anything. No
Maybe I better
plastic
take
in
a glass, you know, you've persuaded me.
it. No plastic in it. No nanoplastics or anything like that.
Okay, good. Okay, the clock is ticking, so now we have like 7 or 8 minutes. So stay on task, stay on task.
When?
Don't even know how to open this one.
Bigyan mo ay? Aking topic. Ayan.
If you're not sure how to get your audience's attention, write your sentence about your first main idea, your second main idea, your third main idea. Get those figured out, and then go back and figure out what to say either before or after that. Okay?
I don't know how to do this.
Apologies. Thank you.
How's it going?
We have a much smaller,
The teachers, I think. Some of first. Yeah, probably the, all those, some of them in the morning, only. Some of them in the afternoon, and those in the afternoon, except for 2.
You're on task. Figure out the drill mark.
Okay, I'm gonna take this back.
How long is a main sentence is anywhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 15 words. More than that, you're gonna lose your audience.
Right.
Okay? You have a main subject, you have an action verb or a linking verb. So depending on what your subject is, you can throw in a couple of adjectives or throw in a couple of adverbs, a couple of prepositional phrases. More than that, the sentence is too long and you've lost your audience because you gotta present. When you're reading, the commas and the punctuation helps phrase your ideas. When you're speaking, you have to have a more succinct sentence.
Ya, so far away, right? But it's not like that. No, it's not.
I don't have anything, you just don't have to write on the margin, cross it out and figure it out. This is just your working copy anyway, it's not your final. Because if you really did this speech, by the time you research these other things, you'd probably adjust and change it some. It's yours to keep, yeah. And then if you want to develop the speech, you can. Huh? No, you can do, actually, if you want to be part of the next competition, it's got to be a different theme, it won't be this one. This is just like the starting point. To kind of get used to the process. And you'll have to do that same process, whatever the new theme is. Think you got it? Close?
Yes.
Say it and time it to yourself and see how long because if you spend too much time on your introduction, you don't have enough time to develop your points later. And you want to have good stories, good anecdotal things, good text examples in the body of your language. So we have to be careful, but sometimes it's worth it to say a little bit more to win your audience. And then the first topic is maybe only a minute and a half, but each one of these is only 1 minute. Depends on what you have to say.
So it has to be 1 minute or 30 seconds?
The introduction should be at least 30 seconds. 30 seconds, no more than a minute. If you took more than a minute, you're not going to have time to develop the rest of your speech. You'll run out of time. Okay, everyone back here is good to go?
I
Introducing an idea, and then each one of these, you have a specific sentence that you will sing from, and a sentence that will lead you into talking with teachers. Okay? So from this, you need to add another sentence, another sentence, another sentence, and your transition. So from here, write your full sentence that you want to say. What do you want to say about teachers? Your sentence over here in the margin and whatever you need to do. And then eventually, you time it and see. Are you saying too much? It's got to be between 30 seconds and no more than a minute. More than that, you don't have time to develop the rest of your speech.
only was speaking it for 1 month.
But you have to at least have 30 seconds or you haven't done all the things you need to do. Right? Right? Okay, okay, good. Now, this is your opening idea, or this is just the lesson? Maybe you want to say that just for that particular idea, okay? Now, if you tell yourself, how long will it take me to say it? Put your little stopwatch on, tell yourself, if you take more than, this is 30 seconds, you divide that by 4 or 5, it means that you need to be able to say this probably in 10 seconds or less. Otherwise, you're rushing and you're saying it without expression, right? You're not ready to share yet, so while you're hovering over it?
That's
Not my first time around. Oh, because, just because you speak Spanish, should I ask you if you know any words in English? I mean, kind of a question. Stand, stand.
no sé, es el éxito. No, ¿qué? Señores. Sorry. Excuse me. Miss.
Yes.
So I heard the speech is about other things or
You think it's, doesn't matter if I think it's a you have to convince me that you think it's a okay? That's part of your intent, your message. You know, it could be, my son thinks supercomputer. But you know what? He's not lived to see the kind of things that doctors, firefighters, lawyers, every single day of their lives. That would be an opening for me to convince people superheroes are not who to see in cartoons. I could also completely change that and convince them that some people think, you know, the doctors and the lawyers are the superheroes, but really, what the kids look at, they look at Superman. That's who they want to be like. If we use that to teach them, then we can use that as a tool. So it depends on what you want to convince your audience.
So the point of my speech is so if heroes actually exist.
Yes.
And so it's a play.
And then you have to convince me, are there really heroes or is it just in the magical world?
Yeah. It's like we make our own heroes.
There you go. You better convince me of it. Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's a very good message. Okay, students, by this point, you should have your sentences done and thinking about how to put it together for that paragraph, because we've got to practice amongst ourselves before you present. Now, remember what I told you. Each one of your sentences certainly can't be longer than 5 to 10 seconds, because if we have 5 things you're going to say, and it's got to be done in 30 seconds, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 5 seconds for each one. We have a cushion of at least 30 seconds, but no more than a minute. Because if you take longer than a minute to say your introduction, you're not going to have enough time to convince your audience of your main points. Right? So you should be writing your sentence, timing yourself, and seeing how long it takes to say that sentence. Putting it together. You should be very close to sharing with a partner, beginning to end, exactly how you would say your introduction. Right? Those of you that just came in, you should be doing the same thing so that when you share with a partner, you have your opening presentation. How you would say it, what you would.
The rest are on their way.
Okay.
Dribbling in.
These guys aren't ready to move to the next phase yet. They act like they are, but they're not.
No.
No. Just.
Teachers, just to give you an idea of introducing this idea, the students have been on task for 30 to 40 minutes. So depending on your lessons, how you would introduce it, 2 20-minute sessions, or if you have a 40-minute block. To get to this point, to introduce the idea, you're going to need 30 to 40 minutes for them to be able to individualize and do that. Has everybody at least timed themselves once? Okay, you should do that now. Read it to yourself silently. Of course, when you read it out loud, it takes longer. Because when you're reading to yourself, you don't do the same pauses. But get an idea, how long is it taking you to read your paragraph? time yourself?
Yes, when I get to the front, I'll see what to say and what, and then so I can be
But could you time yourself? How long does it take you to start from here? to go here? Say it to yourself. How long does it take? YouTube. These are our partners, so I'll consider them all. Yeah, partner. Yeah. So we're gonna be practicing on YouTube walls to just put your stuff. We're gonna come back to this. And we move you over here so we can spread the groups out. Each other. Okay? So follow me. Right? Having yourself? 2 years? 4 seconds?
super.
You're gonna have to trim some of that, or it's already your whole speech. Yeah, but you can work on that, and I'm gonna move you the next. Yeah. Or maybe one more. There you go. Work on what you're gonna trim, and what you're gonna save your speech. Next, you don't, she's your partner. We view it as a trait, instead of having, to, you guys are gonna have to be efficient so that we can all three share. Okay, I'm meeting. Okay. You too. Good. Believe your steps and we'll come back to this space. Just so we can spread out and not hear the other people so much. Right? You should have timed yourself to see if it's within the 30 seconds to 1 minute range. And then now what you're gonna do, because when you say it out loud, it probably takes longer. Because when you stop and pause and say expression, it's gonna take longer. So, speaker one, I want you to say your speech to your partner. The partner is going to time you and watch you and see where you might stumble, what you say, and when you're done, you're going to have to say, did they persuade you? Do you know where they're going with their speech? Is it something you want to hear the next paragraph? Or do they have to do something to keep your interest? Okay? And then you swap. The other person says theirs, and the other person is the timer. Okay? Because then you're going to find out, okay, what do I have to change so I can do that differently? Right? Teachers, partner up with somebody sitting close by and do the same. Okay? Go. Speaker one should start their speech. Yes. Okay, you should have an idea, how long did it take to say your speech? You have to add something, you have to take something away. Get it figured out and tell your partner something they did well and something they need to work on, like in terms of the content. What you found very interesting, what you found very entertaining, what you found very persuasive, or something that maybe you have to add because you didn't really persuade me. Look, focus on the content things of what they wrote. Okay? Go ahead, work with your partner.
We have it here, like,
Okay, all three had a chance? Okay, good. I'm gonna take you and move you to swap around partners, okay? Swap it around a little bit. Say it with somebody else, somebody new. You. Swap you around. So you two are partners now. Here's your new partner. Okay, students, everybody has a new partner? Same thing. Partner one reads while the other person is the timekeeper, gives them feedback on something they did well, something they need to work on. Did they persuade you? Did they convince you? Did they need to add that to their email? Right? Then you do the same thing with the other partner. Teachers, you want to swap around? Want to swap around? Somebody new, swap up one of these ladies back here.
Like your mom, dad, relative,
What do you ladies want to do?
they were able to determine many things practical. Even though but maybe we are overwhelming our heroes. We are still heroes. And I think that they are asking them some of the uncovered parts of being like this hero.
You talk to someone in the culture, and if you're not also, you might not be able to think when it is right now. Or you need a language, or this is what we talk to people at night when they have to there, or we just
This is a three so. No? Okay. You can
okay. People take your life because
You can come back to the seat. Speak with yeah, just go ahead.
I'm not
this can be wrong for your teacher. Having someone you
Okay, students, this is your last chance to practice before you say it in front of everybody in the group. So get your timing down. Do the best you can. Do the best you can. Make your choices. You can do it. You can do it.
And my report turns a statement that is
Okay, let's have everybody move back to their original seats. Move back to your original seats. Students, move back up to your original seats. Okay, you probably got some ideas on what to add, what to take out, what to do, some ideas. One thing I want you to point out is the next handout is writing your checklist. It's my turn to talk, which means eyes are up here. Eyes are up here. Eyes are up here. Some people are still busy talking. Some people are still busy talking. Your last handout when you're working on your speech, once you get the intro the way you like it, you'll be working on the whole body and your conclusion. And you'll probably make some changes. Each time you practiced it with somebody, you of course already came up with some changes to add, things to take away, what to adjust. Again, today we're only looking at what you do with your introduction, and it's a work in progress, so you will change it if you were to continue with the speech. But as the audience is listening, I want you to think, introducing yourself, typically we don't have the person's name or their school because we don't want the judges to be influenced by that. So when you actually do your finished speech, and if you make a video, you would start by just saying the name of your speech, whatever you decided to give it. Many times people don't give the title of their speech until they've written the whole thing, because then you get the inspiration of what would be a really good title for it. So today, we're just going to start with whatever you started for your introduction. But eventually, if you use this as your entry, you would need to say what the title is. Okay. Did you grab the audience's attention? So when you're listening to the presentation, I want you to think about, did they grab your attention? Do you want to hear more what they have to say? Did they interest you? Did they give a very strong point of view, a theme, their intent? Did they include that in their introduction? Doesn't have to be their first sentence, but did they include what they plan to present to you? What's the message that they have? Did they have an interesting idea, like something that made you think, something that made you wonder, like what are they going to say next? What's yet to come? That should be in your introduction. And then eventually you'll build your body and your conclusion. When you're doing your speech, you always have a very strong beginning, a very strong ending. And in the middle is where you entertain, persuade, convince. Give analytical statistics to support. It's not just your idea. There's other people that think that too. But you want to start out strong and you want to end strong. So some of the things that you took out of your introduction, you might save for your conclusion or put somewhere else in the speech. It's not like it was a bad thing to say, but you'll just rearrange where you put it. Okay? So now you're in the hot spot. We're going to go right down the list, and we're going to have each person come up, stand right here next to the podium. You can hold your speech if you want, or you can put it behind the table if you want to put it flat down. But as you're still reading it, because you haven't practiced, You want to have it at about waist level so that we see your face and we can interact with you, even though you're still in your beginning stages, okay? So when it's your turn, you come and get yourself in position and you say your introduction from beginning to end. Okay? Are you ready? You're in the hot spot. There you go.
Really do that? ¿Cómo decir?
Shh, give them your attention.
Do you have someone you look up to? And if you have one, why so? Having someone you look up to is important because it helps us to guide ourselves into what we might and want to be. This is what we call heroes. People we admire, whether because we want to be like them or we respect what they do. There's a lot of different types of heroes, but I have divided them into these three categories. Empathy-based one, like doctors or rescue teams. People who can change others' lives because of what they do. Aspiration-based ones, celebrities, superheroes, or smart people. These are people we don't know personally, but we look up to and that can be because of many reasons. And personal-based ones. These can be your mom, your teacher, or your friend. These are people you do know and you look up to because of what they do and what they mean to you. That's it.
Good. Can you give me an example of something that caught your attention? Something interesting that she said?
That she was like teaching us about all the kinds of different heroes we can see.
Okay, okay. To make you think about that. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Anything that you think she should work on within her speech as far as persuading or convincing? You want to hear what else she has to say? Okay, better work on it then. Okay, you're next. Go for it.
Hello, teacher and classmate. Today we're going to present my
Is he following the rules?
No.
What is he supposed to do? What's the first word that comes out of his mouth? The first word in his introduction.
So,
Start again. There you go.
do heroes actually exist? Before we can answer this question, we need to know what makes a hero. A hero is someone who inspires us, someone who makes us want to be better. I think heroes don't exist in real life because heroes are an idealization of someone, and this someone who we think they are heroes may not be what we think. But we need heroes because heroes give us hope and inspiration. So do heroes actually exist? I think heroes do not exist in the real world, but they exist in our minds because we make our own heroes. We make our own heroes by giving them our hope, and by doing this, we end up making a hero. Thank you.
Did he have a message to give to the audience? You can tell me, what was his message? What was his message? Let's see if she got your message right. What did he want you to be thinking about while you listen to the rest of his speech?
That human person really exists, but we can make like our own heroes.
Did she get it?
Kind of.
Okay, what would you add to that? What did she miss?
What I meant with my speech is that heroes just exist in our minds because we do not know the person we think they are heroes.
Okay.
And I think we make our own heroes because we believe in that person.
And he started to say that, but maybe he has to be a little bit more concise in his introduction before he goes on. Some of the other things have to be a little bit later in your speech. Because you got the idea, but only part of the idea. By the time you're done with the introduction, they should really know what's your main thing that you're going to be trying to convince us of. Okay?
Sometimes you have too much expectations on the heroes that you have. But have you stopped to think why they are your heroes? And that's what I did. Maybe they are not heroes of the world and they are just heroes for a few. But in my case, one of them is my psychologist, who is a good listener, the head of my family, my mother, or my creative art teacher of when I was like 7 years old. But they are my heroes because they changed a part in my life and they made it better. That's it.
Okay, good job. Good job. Okay, did she say anything that makes you wonder, what is she going to say more? Did she create any question in your mind? Yeah? What? What kind of question did come to your mind? What do you think she's going to say next? Yeah.
Like I would like to know like why are they exactly heroes?
To give the personal examples that you'll hear later. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Well done. Included what you needed in your intro. You're up.
Heroes. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a person who is admired for their courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. They made it sound as if heroes were rare people, but is it really like that? Me personally, I think it's not, as I believe heroes are actually ordinary people, like me, or you, or anyone in this room. Everyone and anyone, consciously or not, can be a hero. I'll give a couple of examples so you all can empathize with me and maybe comprehend my point of view. My family. Mom, dad, grandmother, little brother, 2 dogs, and 1 bird. This group of individuals are my direct family, and all of them are my heroes. And that's the point where I have to
Continue.
Yeah.
Good. Well. Okay, did she say anything that you thought was entertaining? Did she include anything entertaining? What would you say? The whole group chuckled at that one. It's like, oh yeah. Out of all the things she's listing, and then, oh yeah. So, the introduction, you want to grab your audience's attention by your theme or a little story that you gave, something that makes them want to hear what else are you going to say. Okay, good. You're up next. Do what you have. It's good. It's a good start. It's just a work in progress.
Do you have someone who inspires you, who helps you to keep going? Heroes are something that have always existed. There's superheroes who are amazing, incredible, have superpowers, etc. You know them. And there's the other kind of heroes, the personal ones, family members, teachers, etc. They're the people who inspire you, that are with you in real life and help you with the real things. And everyone has their own heroes. But for example, my own hero could be a mom. And for you, like anyone here, could be their dad, their aunt, or even a character. Doesn't really have to be a real one. Just someone who helps you who inspires you to keep going. Everything is the same. That's all I have.
What do you think her intent was? What was the intent that she wants the audience to be listening for? What's her message? What does she want you to know by the time she's done with her speech?
We can find heroes everywhere.
There's heroes everywhere. Yeah. She gave a lot of different examples, so we're going to see which ones are genuinely the heroes. Yeah. Good start. These are works in progress. You will adjust that according to as you do the rest of your speech. It's just the getting started, right? Okay. You're up.
Think of someone who has made a difference in your life, someone who will support you, inspire you, still by you in tough times. What if I told you that these everyday are just as significant as legendary figures we actually admire? Like our friends or family, maybe classmates, teachers, or even our pets. Well, we can start with the friends that they might not wear capes, but they have a positive impact in our life. They stand by us during tough times of their shoulder to cry, and instead of success. Our family members, particularly older siblings, they guide us through life complexities. They find us when we are vulnerable and set examples as faith or values and decisions. That's an example.
Okay, did she have a flow? Do you know what she's going to present in the speech? What is she going to talk about? What? She said first, friends. Then she said family. What does that tell you? Friends are more important than family if they're out there. Yeah? Woohoo! Be careful when you share that with your mom and dad. But you got to give your opinion in your voice of what's important. Who knows? Maybe later in the speech she'll change your mind and say they're home. Yeah. Okay, you're up. Go this way up around the ramp so we're not on the cords and stuff. Okay.
So, who's your hero? Is it someone? Is it something? Do you really think you have a hero? Everyone in this world will have a hero. It could be your parents, someone you follow, a specific person, or another thing or person. In your whole life, you will always need your hero, someone you want to follow, or someone who's gonna help you. Personally, my heroes are my parents because they are the people I follow. They are the people who makes me feel better when I'm feeling bad, and they are who look after me. Your hero is something or someone who means too much to you. Also something that motivates you and makes you feel better.
Okay, well done. Well done. Good. And what was his message? In the introduction, who is the hero for him? What did he tell us? Yes, his family. He told us that might not be for you, but he told us who he thought was important, and he's going to list that in his speech as he goes. Good start. All right, you're next.
When people talk about heroes, we think about superheroes like Superman or Wonder Woman. But what about real life heroes in our own personal life? Some people may or may not think they need a hero in their life. But I can assure you, everyone needs a hero. No one is good alone. My best friends will always be my heroes. When I feel alone, bored, sad, or even angry, they are the spark that lightens up my life. If I don't have my friends, I have my father. I have my family. We come from the same bloodline, so that makes me feel secure every time I'm with them. If none of them is around, I have music. It makes me feel like I'm in my own personal world and I always lighten up the mood. But I think I will talk about this later. Thank you.
Okay, before he comes in, you come out. And while she's getting ready, what was his message?
You can find heroes in every place and time.
Everyone needs a hero. I heard that very clearly. Everyone needs a hero. Might not be the same kind of criteria, but everybody needs some kind of hero.
Talk about heroes, we think about strong people with superpowers or doctors, but we never think about people that make music. I think musicians are like heroes because just by doing what they love, they are able to help us in a lot of ways. Even though music is transcendental, musicians are the ones able to play it and making us feel something at the same time. But why is music and musicians so important? Music makes us feel calm. It helps us when we have problems. And even though it don't solve them, we at least feel a little bit better.
Well done. Good job. What was her message? She had a very, very specific message this time around. Because so far she's the one that took a very specific topic. She said, musicians. We've had very general categories and things, but now we're talking about musicians. So maybe throughout she's going to talk about different famous musicians or musicians that have been important to her or maybe different styles of musicians. But she's captured the audience's attention that everything she has to say is going to be somehow how these musicians are actually heroes.
Do you have any heroes? Like your mom, your dad, a celebrity, a yacht maybe? Well, I have some. For example, teachers. They are supposed to teach and raise future citizens. Also scientists. More exactly, ancient scientists. They were able to discover many things without having technology. And doctors. They save lives. Your life could be in their hands. But maybe we are overvaluing our heroes. They are still humans. And I think that we are maybe asking them way too much. Let me talk to you more about some of the undercover parts of being like the heroes I mentioned.
Interesting. What was her message? What did she want you to take away from her speech? Heroes are also human. Heroes are also human. And she's focusing on the key that she's not just going to talk about heroes, but that we expect a little bit too much. We idolize them too much. So I'm interested to see what kind of examples she's going to give that, yeah, they're a hero, but we're asking too much of them to keep that status going. And she wants to pursue that in her speech, to persuade us. Okay.
Did you know how many students have a good time learning with teachers? Sounds weird, right? It's an uncommon opinion of the people, but have it with good result, making they our heroes in the school. For example, if someone have a good relation with teacher, they are supposed to learn how to be a better person. Something like that happened with family. If I spend a good quality of time with them, exists a good chance to have a good relation with all the members it have luck. In another hand, exists robot machine using the medicine that they make your life even more longer for spend good time with people you love.
And that made him our heroes too.
All right, well done. Okay, what's the main idea that she was gonna try and present? What did she say? She was giving examples of many different kinds of heroes and what they give to us, to all of us, not just to her, but to humanity, to society. So she's going to be much more global in her examples than specific. So she's going to try and encompass all different kinds of people that might be in the audience. Because what you say in your introduction really sets for where you're going to go with that. And like I said, when the judges are looking at their speeches, they're going to see, was there a good flow? Did they stay with whatever the theme was for their speech? Did they persuade? Did they convince? Or was it just entertaining? Because the judges will look at those things, and that will make the difference between somebody that did a good job and a very good job. That's the kind of thing that they'd be looking for. So, again, this is just the beginning, and we only focused on the outline. Once you get a good, strong outline, you're going to be able to build the rest of your speech like dominoes that will all go into effect. And by then you'll decide, what do I really have to say in my conclusion to bring it all together? So that you have a good, strong ending. And by then people will really know what your message was. So again, if you were to pursue this, you would have activities that you give students the opportunity to listen to each other, and when they have all their content, they can pick out very specific things and say, I really liked when you used this statistic because it really convinced me. I didn't think of it that way. Things can be manipulated and make them sound however you want them to. You can take the same statistic and have it be pro or con, depending on how you use it. So when you're giving feedback or help your students come up with very specific things to give them feedback on what they should change in certain parts of their speech. And if you want all of the details, then of course, go to the website, get all the details for how to get started on any sort of speech to get your short list from your school. And from that point, when we get the official theme for this next year, you can then have your shortlist students work on the theme, and they'll have gone through the process. They'll know how to do their introduction. They'll know how to build their body. They'll save some of their strong quotes for the end and the conclusion so that they have a good, strong presentation. So if you just do the get started on any topic, on do we expect too much from our heroes, or any topic that you would select, get your short list, have them go through all of the steps and the processes, have the students in your room involved in saying who were the top candidates and why. What did you get? Because public speaking, you have to involve your audience. And at that point, the audience is their peers. So you need to get them involved in the process. Brainstorm your ideas as a group so that when they work on their individual, they will brainstorm themselves or with friends, family, to help them with the new theme that comes out. Take those ideas and decide which are the main ones that you want to develop further. Make sure it's maybe an interesting idea, but there's not much that you can do with it. There's not a good story, there's no personal connection for you, or there's not good stats out there. You gotta kind of go with what's gonna make a good speech. Once you get that, take the ideas from that into an outline. Build your outline, because you can't have a good, strong introduction until you have an idea where your rest of your speech is going to go. It can go in too many different directions. The topics are always very open-ended. And then, of course, do the checklist before you actually present it as your final presentation. And again, be sure and give very specific, helpful hints. Not so general. Be specific. If you say you spoke with good expression, give an example of a sentence that was said that really grabbed your attention. Be as specific as you can, especially when you're working in partners, so that they know what works and influences their audience. And once you do that, you have to reinforce to be kind, to be specific, and to be helpful. Once you do all of that, all of these things are on the webpage to grab again as handouts. And I would encourage to do something like this. This is available on the website. Speakers 1 through 10. Look at your main areas, and as each person gets up and says their full speech, have the students scoring on what they would give them on a 1 to 5 scale, or a 1 to 3, whatever you want to set as your criteria. And for the teachers that want to get a specific certificate from us, if you complete this with a group of students and send us the information, then we will send a certificate of completion that you fill out your name, the group, what you did, and we know that the time that we came here was worth it because you did it with a group and you're expressing and using public speaking skills, not with just a select group, but everyone in your class. The whole idea is everyone can be a good speaker given the opportunity. There are so many examples of people that are not good speakers and they get better. Winston Churchill, you hear about the great speeches that he does, and he stuttered as a child. So there are so many examples. King George, he had to get on the radio and express the very first radio announcement that the country was going to war. Again, somebody that stuttered and was not comfortable with public speaking. Yet he overcame that and was able to speak to the group. And he said, "Oh, I stumbled a couple of times so that they know it wasn't all planned." But for the most part, he grabbed his audience. So you don't have to start out being a strong speaker. You can get better at it. Every time you get up, you'll have more confidence. The first time up here, you're nervous, and then you get lots better at it. So any questions or queries, esu@esu.cl. We will have whoever is in charge of that event answer you. That could be me, that could be Christine, or one of the other many volunteers that we have here. Anyone that is part of this workshop certainly qualifies to be a round 1 judge, that you can hear examples from other students and be part of the round 1 team, because you can do it in the comforts of your own home, send off your results. It's a little more difficult to be in the semifinals and finals, but certainly it's a very good experience to judge and see what other schools are capable of sending for the same examples that you gave to your own students. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you for your time. I think we're only a little bit over the mark, but anybody that wants to pose any further pictures with their students, or any of you students want to work on that speech, you work on that speech, present it to your teacher, and maybe you can be on the short list, so when we get the new theme for this year, you could be on your way to London. You too could be on your way to London. Okay? All right, thank you.